Welcome to Tiny Painting Corner Winter's Evening. Let's go over our supplies. We have our 2x2 canvas, and then we have our paint brushes. We have our larger flat brush here. Then we have our medium brush, and then we have our small detail brush. Of course, you need your cleaning water with soap. Remember to add the soap after you put the water into eliminate suds. And then we have the boys, of course. We have our 2 paper towels, one underneath the cup and one underneath the canvas. And then we have our beautiful display of all of our paints. So let's get started. So the first step into painting this wintry landscape is to have our sunset sky. We will first take our larger flat brush and dip it into the water. Make sure you get off any excess moisture off on the paper towel. And then we're going to take the brush and dip into our lightest shade of yellow. And now we are going to draw a line right above north, and that's going to be the end of the sky. You're going to take the brush and lightly sweep it across the canvas. You could get a little bit messy right here because this is just the base and we are going to add more to it. And then, without cleaning your brush, we are going to dip into our orange color right here. Just a dab will do. And now we're going to use the same technique that we used for yellow and blend it throughout the sky. Okay, and still without cleaning off our brush, we are going to dip into the red. You don't want a lot because red is one of those loud colors and it'll get everywhere. So, you're going to use the same sweeping technique, but we're only going to go in certain spots to add some color texture. This is not going to be perfectly blended, and that is just a-okay. We have more time to fix it. And next we're going to dip back into that orange just a little bit on the tip, like so. And then you're going to use that orange to blend out the red. Okay, we're finally going to clean off this brush. Remember to get that extra water off. So we have a second shade of yellow. This one is brighter. We are going to dip into that and make sure you have a good glob amount on this brush. And then we're going to start from the bottom left corner to brighten up the sky. Make sure that you leave a portion at the top clear of yellow. We want that area to be more red. Once that is blended, you want to dip your brush into the red using the flat tip. And then you want to make red stripes in the mid left of the sky and on the right portion of the sky that you didn't put the yellow in. You want to make sure your strokes are light. You never want to dig into the canvas. I am using the very tip of the brush to blend in my sky right now. So once we have the red stripes in, you are going to blend it using the same sweeping technique that we're using before, but much shorter strokes. After that, we are going to dip into that duller yellow and make little dashes along the bottom. It is this yellow to be specific. You are going to want to make somewhat of a boxed arch, and then you're going to smooth out the roughness as you blend. Once we have the base color in, you're going to take the corner of the brush and stripe it along to make a softer blend. Okay, next we are going to go into the red once more. And if you find that you have too much paint on your brush still from the yellow, you could just simply wipe that off on your paper towel, like so, and then go back into that red. We are going to be adding the red hue back into our painting using the side sweeping motion that we were using before. And once you find the red is nearly completely gone from your brush, you could just use that to blend out the entire sky. And I know my strokes look as if they're very rough, but I assure you my hands are light. It should look like this. So next we are going to clean off our big brush in the water, and then we're going to swap it for our medium-sized brush. Make sure to wet it and brush off the excess water. And we are going to dip into that bright yellow and make sure you have a good amount. And then we're going to make a nice semicircle like we used to draw the sun. And then you're going to use zigzag motions to blend out this sun. Remember to have light strokes. Try to make it look like the sun is rising in the beginning of Lion King. Keep blending until you have a sunburst type look, and be careful not to blend the yellow at the top where the red is. And speaking of red, actually, we are going to dip our brush into the red next. And we are going to make 5 upward cascading dots up to the red line. And then we're going to use the zigzag motion that we use for the sun to blend it out. So at this point we may have gotten a little bit too much of the orange in our brush. So the next step we are going to take is to clean off the brush on the paper towel, and we are going to dip back into the red. And very lightly zigzag the red into our red zone to deepen a little more. And once it is on there, I like to dot and drag very lightly to have a more even blend. And we're going to add little touches of red over to the left of the sky and to the right. It is very key that we use our very light as a feather strokes that we have been using to blend in these lines. It'll keep it nice and feathery, and it'll make it look more like a natural sunset than very harsh lines. We are going to continue to blend out the sky, and then we are going to switch our brush strokes to a very light and quick stroke as you go to the left point of the sky. Cleaning off the brush completely on the paper towel, we're going to go back into that bright yellow and use that light quick stroke, and once that is fully blended, we will be done with the sky portion of the painting. So once we are done with completely blending out this sky, our next step is to make the grass. So you're going to dip it into the water, completely clean it off, dab off the excess water as we normally do. And then our next step is to get into the green. We are going to be making the grass. You're going to want this amount right on the tip, and we're going to draw a line across the bottom to make that separation. It's okay to go into the sky a little bit. And then you're going to drag it along the bottom and just color in the bottom half in the green. It's okay to be a little bit messy because this is going to be covered in the snow portion soon. All we need to do is cover the bottom half in this green. You're going to keep dragging that along until we have the whole area covered in the green. And then once we have it fully covered, we are going to actually set it aside to dry. So you're going to want to give it a little bit of time so we can add the trees in. Okay, it is tree time. For the trees, you're going to use your skinny detail brush. And so you're going to want to dip it into water, clean off the excess water, yada yada. And you're going to use a good amount of brown on this brush actually, but you don't want too much that's globby, but enough to coat the brush and the canvas. And then we are going to start making the trees. And for the trunks, what I like to say is that you're going to act like you are making a capital A, but make it kind of light and wispy. And once you have the base of your wispy capital A, you are going to fill it in. You're going to want to get some more color on your brush, and then you're going to make light strokes upward into the sky to complete your tree trunk. So you are actually going to follow this pattern in various spots along your canvas. You can use the same pattern that I'm using, or you could put your trees wherever you like. It does not have to be uniform to how mine looks. Following the trunks, we are going to make the branches, and to do that, you're going to take a little bit of the brown paint and extend the lines coming from the trunk going upwards. I like to make what I call a squiggly V pattern for the branches. They could be long, they could be short, but this is the technique I use for all of my trees. The number one key and word of the day for this painting is that you need to be delicate. Specifically for these trees, you want to make sure your hand is very light. I like to keep my branches relatively thin, but for the bases of the branches, I make them a little thicker. I take this pattern, I do this over and over again for however many trees I feel is fit, and you can use the same amount of trees I do, or you could do a little bit less, a little bit more, but this is the pattern to make all of the trees. And they do not have to be uniform, not all the trees have to look alike, but this is the pattern and the brush strokes I use to make the branches and the trunks. So we have finished our forest of trees, and our next step is to add some shadowing and detailing. And to do that, you're going to want to take our skinniest brush and clean it off in the water and make sure there's no added moisture. This part is very important because the water could ruin the painting because we're about to use black. So I checked on my hand this time to make sure that it was pretty dry. And now we are going to lightly dip into the black, only submerging the tip in. As you see, I checked on my hand again to make sure it was completely dry. So for the details, you are going to add soft, delicate black lines along the tree. Aim for the sides and the middle of the tree for this. And when I go for my branches, I normally like to go underneath it to add like that bit of shadow as if the sun is casting down on the tree and you see the shadow beneath the branches. Also, you can add a small little squiggle when you're making your lines so it doesn't look so up and down. And as you can see, when you add just a little bit of squiggle into your lines, it makes it look more three-dimensional and more realistic. And right here, I drag the brush a little rougher along the bottom for a bit of a rougher shadow. The lines also do not need to be continuous. They can stop and start wherever you would like. We are going to keep going and doing this for all the trees. And then once you have that all done, we are going to move over to make our snow. now that the branches are done, we are going to make our snow. And to do that, we are going to go back to our flat brush, and we're going to need to clean off that flat brush completely. Like, it cannot have any other paint on it because we're going to be going into white, and that will very much show up in the painting. You're also going to want to make sure that the paintbrush is completely dry, because what we're going to be using is a dry stroke type technique. And so you're going to dip the tip into the white, just the tip of it, and you are going to dab off that white off to the side so we can have more of a texture onto the painting. And then you are going to dot this along the painting. You could be a little bit rougher than we were before. And you're going to want to put this in between the trees, just on the grass. It's okay if it touches the tree just a little bit so it looks like it's covered in a little bit of fresh snow. Now, it's important that you don't want this to be completely covered in white. You still want to see a little bit of the green peeking in between. So don't go too heavy with our snow. I know it's a very fun pattern to do, but don't go too hard. Okay, so our last step is that we're going to add snow to the trees. And so to do that, you're going to take your detail brush, clean it off. As you can see, I'm completely wrapping it in the paper towel to make sure it is very dry. You want to make sure there is no moisture around it at all. So you're going to dip into the white once again, and you're going to want a good amount on your brush, but you don't want to have it very globby. You want it to be light enough where you could do light little strokes. I like to put it on top of the branches, and we go for the drier stroke so it looks like snow being caught in between the roughness of a branch. Or if you wanted more of a packed snow, you could have more white on your brush and it'll look much smoother. I do a bit of a combination of both in this painting, so you could choose either or. It really depends on how you feel. All right, as you can see, we are done with our winter's evening. Just gonna add a little bit of touch right there. Okay, and now we are done with the winter's evening. Everything looks so cute, it looks amazing. And our last step is to paint the sides. I like to finish off by painting the sides, but you don't have to if you don't want to. To do that, I have to use the flat brush, and to hold the canvas, I use my thumb and index finger in a cross pattern on the back wooden canvas. And we're going to start off with the grass, and we're just going to paint the sides. I already painted the bottom of it. You can paint the bottom of it as well. And you're going to stop where the grass stops in the front of the painting. You're going to do it on both sides. Next, you're going to clean that off on the paper towel, and then we're going to go into the orange. And we're going to paint the oranges on the sides of the painting. It's okay if you get a little bit at the top. It's going to be blended out a little bit later, but make sure you don't get it on the front of the painting. And for the top, I am going to go for my red. The red might be a little bit globby, but that is okay because we're going to use it to blend on both sides. So we're going to blend the top and the sides of the paintings. As you can see, we have a large glob right there, but we're going to blend that out. And if for some reason you get some paint on the front of your painting from doing this technique right here, because it is very easy to happen, what you're going to do is you're going to clean off the brushes a little bit, and you're going to drag the brush along the sides of the painting to clean it up, and you are going to use the very sides of it and drag it along like you're doing a sketching to blend the paint on the side to the front. And then you're going to keep using a somewhat dry stroke along the top and sides to blend it out a little bit more. And if you get a little bit of paint on the front, it's okay. Like I said, you could just use that side sweeping motion to get the paint off. Okay, our next part is that we're going to add the snow on the side. So we're going to use the same technique that we did for the snow last time and do it for the sides. And I'm also going to do it for the bottom. You don't have to do it for the bottom if you don't want. The bottom is the least seen part, but I like to have it for the complete picture. And here we have our complete winter's evening. I hope you guys all had a good time. Goodbye, everyone.